We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sirree. We are here once again. This is, I'm Cruise Control.
And I'm Maxwell Silverhammer.
And this is the Nothing Sacred interview. And Max, take it away.
Yeah, we got Sam Wagmeister, who is a writer for the Vegas Voice, which is a paper for seniors, on with us because he has a very interesting story to share. Sam, welcome to the show.
Oh, glad to be here.
Absolutely.
Hey, Sam, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of background about how long you've been involved with The Voice, and so you had a history, a little bit of reporting. So tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I've been working for the Vegas Voice magazine now for 12 years. I started writing an entertainment column about local entertainment here in Las Vegas. And I've always enjoyed telling people's stories, something I learned back in the 60s from in college when I did an interview with a published author by the name of Studs Terkel. And when COVID hit, my column was out of material because there was no local entertainment. So I began telling people stories, what I called my stories of accomplishment, how the little guy was keeping his business afloat during COVID. And there's some incredible stories that needed to be told. Well, I transitioned and then I became outraged. The Vegas Voice had worked for years on a story that came our way from one of our readers. Prior to that, back in the 60s, I'd been a reporter in Chicago, and we closed some newspapers. So I transitioned from one allied industry to another. I went from reporting for newspapers to selling advertising for newspapers to sales. And then one day here in Las Vegas, I met the publisher of the Vegas Voice, and I said, I envy what you do. And he said, why? I said, if I could do anything, I'd be a journalist. He said, well, give me 500 words once a month. And so I became integrated with the Vegas Voice magazine. The story that came about was we got a call from a woman from California, the magazine did. And she said, my parents had their house foreclosed upon. My mom had her house foreclosed upon, and she owned it outright. And well, how could this happen? Well, there was a process here called a guardianship, and somebody, unbeknownst to the daughter in California, somebody unbeknownst to her had been appointed by the courts to become the mother's legal guardian, which meant that legal guardian took complete control of the mother's life. She took ownership of everything, bank accounts, investment accounts, all monies, all mail was directed to her. She took control of all the mother's possessions, and the mother was taken to a home for her safekeeping, a care facility of sorts. The mother resisted, and the guardian simply said, I have a court order, and if you don't come with me voluntarily, I'll have the police take you in handcuffs. And that's how a law that was designed to protect seniors in need was now being used to rob them of everything. And the way the house was foreclosed upon was the home was in a homeowners association, and the guardian failed to pay the homeowners association dues for over 2 years. Well, the homeowners association doesn't know what's going on, their people are sending out letters and bills and notices that, this is past due, and then they start sending letters on, if you don't pay, this is what can happen. And the homeowner is charged for the cost of the attorney sending the letter and other costs and expenses and fines and interest, everything accrues, and it just goes way out of control. It becomes thousands and thousands of dollars until the homeowners association forecloses to collect the money.
And she wasn't getting the mail because they were going to the Guardian instead of her.
They were going to the Guardian. Yeah.
And the Guardian didn't own the house, so she didn't give a shit, because the still owner of the house was still the woman, but the Guardian was the one handling all the crap.
Yes.
Or all
Yes.
the mail.
Yes.
Wow.
And if the woman needed a pair of pants, she had to go to the Guardian. I need a pair of pants. The Guardian would go to Walmart, pay $19 for a pair of pants, pay an $80 service fee for going to Walmart.
Does this person just randomly show up at her front door and say, hey, you're not able to care for yourself anymore, we're taking you?
I don't know how they're targeted. But Brett, one of the Guardians who was involved in this, because he was in a group that we both belonged to.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Wow. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So this is not just a one-off thing. This is happening all over the place.
This is happening hundreds of times. People are saying it can't happen to me. I have a very close friend who is a retired attorney who moved here from New Jersey, very successful man. And he said, it can't happen to me because of this and this and this and this. In every instance that he said, it can't happen to me because of this, I said, but it happened to somebody else who had the same circumstances. It can't happen. Well, I'm protected because my home is in a trust. Trust doesn't protect you. He said, my son lives in the same city. That doesn't protect you. Nothing protects you under the old laws. But now the publishers of the Vegas Voice spent their own money, spent their own time, which was an extended period of over 3 years. They traveled to the state capitol and they worked with legislature, and they got some protections put in place that's free to the public, but the public has to take advantage of it. But the stories of what has happened is devastating. It was made into the story of the guardianship story in Nevada was made into a documentary movie by a man named Billy Mintz, and it's called The Guardians, and it's available on Amazon Prime. And if you Google it, Billy Mintz is Billie, Mintz, Mintz, The Guardians. I was at a private screening. There were about 50 people there. And I've been going to movies since the 1950s. And I have never seen an audience quieter than this movie, because it was breathtaking. It almost reminded me of the audience you see at movies about the Holocaust, the silence.
Really, really sobering, huh?
Astonishing.
So what is, okay, so let's talk about, there's a law that's put into place, that's a loophole, obviously, for these people to do that. What exactly is that allows them to be able to come in there and take over someone's life without their permission, basically? Or how do they get that? Like, how does that work, basically? How's the initial scam work? What's the law, basically, that does this?
Well, a lot of the information I got from the movie, the background movie, but I've gone to a number of seminars that the Vegas Voice has put on in neighborhoods, and we continue to do that. And if people want to contact the Vegas Voice, and I'll give you the contact information later on in this as we talk, but we'll come out there at no charge and show the movie. It's about a 90-minute movie, and then we'll have a question and answer period afterwards. But here's what happened. Nevada was a cowboy town. You know, people came here to build a railroad stop in Las Vegas, and a community grew out of it. Well, there were also opportunities out here in Nevada, and people, you know, in this world sometimes just want to get away and be away from whatever it is that they're living through at the time. So a community built up, and there were a community built up of individuals who lived alone. He had no friends or relatives when they came out here, knew no one. And occasionally, through life circumstances, people needed help, but were unable to get help. So guardianship laws were passed where somebody could approach the courts and say, such and such a person needs help, needs a guardian, they're not able to take care of themselves. And there was a process. They needed doctors, certificates, doctor's approval, and a guardian who would take care of them. And the court would appoint that guardian legally, and that guardian would take care of them. And the thought was that that guardian would have the best interests of their client, their patient in mind. And it worked that way.
Wow.
Well, the system was around for years and years and years, and somebody realized that it could be scammed. So a consortium grew out of this that involved people in the court system and doctors who would forge paperwork, falsify paperwork, and the guardians themselves. So it took a group of people, probably some of the people from the care facilities, but that's just speculation on my part.
That's just pisses the doctors again. Oh,
Yeah.
doctors are so great. Yeah, they're pushing pharmaceuticals and they're forging documents for people, probably
Yeah.
getting a huge cut of what what that guardian is getting.
Well, I don't want you to think that it took a lot of people to create this scam. It took very few.
Yeah.
And I believe only one doctor was cited in this movie, The Guardians. And I believe only a couple of people in the court system. Unfortunately, there's been no penalties that have come their way so far, but doesn't mean there aren't there in the future.
You know what the scary thing about this is, though? Like, okay, in my case, being blind, like all you could get is some busybody person. Oh, he needs a guardian. He's not able to care for himself. He lives alone. And then all of a sudden, they're doing this crap to me, right? Because I'm sure it can happen to any adult where somebody could say, well, a person needs a
well, and that's the thing, because it happened to people who weren't blind, who were self-sufficient. They had one woman, they said they strapped one woman down to a gurney to take her out of the house.
What?
Another man barricaded himself in his home with a gun, and he held police at bay for a couple of days. Now you may say he's a little crazy, but you know what?
No. I don't think he's crazy. I think he's completely sane, and people are treating him like he's crazy. That's the problem.
That's what's insane.
Their neighbors surrounded the authorities when they came to take somebody away, and they fought to leave that person in the home. It went, their pleas went to deaf ears.
That's scary shit, man.
Very scary.
There was one instance where the court received documentation that the victim had a son, and the son had been interviewed by a doctor and was declared a homeless drug addict, incapable. Well, it turned out the son was not homeless. He was not destitute. He was very well-to-do, and he'd never heard of the doctor. He wasn't interviewed, and he could have taken care of the father.
But the father probably didn't even need taken care of, because the
Father
whole
didn't
idea,
need to be taken care of.
yeah, the whole idea
Some
is,
people have successfully come out of the homes. They've had nothing left. One of the woman who was the worst, the worst propagator of this system was a woman named April Parks. By the time the investigation was done, everything was completed. She was sentenced to 45 years in the penitentiary.
Good.
And her assistant, Mark Simmons, 15 years in the penitentiary.
Oh yeah, that's the guy I know.
Yeah.
Well, with them, they were PCAs though, right? They actually did, like light housekeeping stuff around the house for people. Wasn't that what they did?
of course, that's how they probably find the people that they want to target.
No, they didn't do that. They helped facilitate that, I believe.
Oh.
So
Wow.
how can this happen without? Do they have to interact with the person at some point to get their signature on shit, or they don't have to even do that?
No, because if you are in the condition that you need a guardian,
Jesus.
you're not in the condition to
sign.
cooperate.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and if you need a guardian, probably mentally, you're not able to legally be held accountable for your signature. That's speculation again on my part, but remember, the guardianship was designed for people who couldn't take care of themselves.
So, but how do they don't test the people? Like, they don't go up and say, all right, you are completely, they just have people hearsay, oh, well, this person is incompetent. Okay.
Right. They don't. That's a good point.
The doctor who
Fuck doctors. Excuse my language. It's pissing me off.
remember the
Go ahead.
doctor who said that the son was a homeless drug addict,
Right.
falsified the records. This may come as a shock to you, but there are people out there who will actually lie to profit for themselves.
Of course. Yeah, I know. It just boggles the mind that can be possible. Someone literally doesn't know you. There's no record that you've actually visited this person in terms of actual doctor visit or any kind of consultation, anything at all. Can go, all right, I'm a doctor.
I have to tell you that I went to these seminars over the years, and I listened to mostly third party, mostly the publishers of the Vegas Voice talking about what happened, and various local political figures saying, informing people what we were trying to do or what had been done to protect them. And it's one thing to hear that, but when I saw this movie, I just walked out of there speechless, as did the other 49 people who were in there. It's, how could this happen? And everyone who went in there, I'm sure, said to themselves, this could never happen to me. But you know what? It's like getting in your car and saying, I'll never be in a traffic accident. Some drunk driver comes down the road, goes through a red light and hits you. And it can happen. Everybody is vulnerable.
That's crazy. Like it, and there's no way to prevent it. It's just one day.
There is.
Is there? What can you do?
There, laws or systems have been set up, and this is what's so important. There's a form that's been developed by the state of Nevada called the request to nominate a guardian. And I'll give an email or a website that people can go to when I'm finished talking about this form and how it came about. But people now have a choice of who they wish their guardian to be. One of the things is the old Nevada law required the guardian to live in the state of Nevada. That's no longer the case. So if I have a daughter who's living in, say, Chicago, and I want her to be my guardian, she has to be notified by this law. If I file a form with the state of Nevada, she will be notified. Okay, if it wasn't the case that they would be notified out of state. But what happened is the state of Nevada designed this form and set up a system, and they want the public to fill out the form, and the Vegas Voice has nothing to do with this, this process. We were involved as a magazine. We were involved in the laws and the committees that designed it, but we're not in the administration of it. And people who fill this form out, they need to have it notarized. There's no cost to the form or to this process. The only cost is if you have to pay for notarization. And then it's to be sent to the state of Nevada. And the state of Nevada puts this in what they call a lockbox, a no cost, I'm not reading here, a no cost service provided by the Office of the Nevada Secretary of State. So even though us at the Vegas Voice magazine are behind this program 100%, we're not involved in the administration. The forms don't come to us. We're not trying to do this for any other reason other than we don't want to fall victims to it.
Well, and that's the thing.
It's our readers, our neighbors, to fall victim to it.
I think it's to reiterate, like you said, this has nothing to do with your capabilities as an adult. It doesn't matter whether you are fully functional in terms of what you can do, how you get around. This can happen because people can just do it to anybody. Is this like at all? So it's just if you're I'm active and I'm still doing this and it doesn't matter, obviously.
Right. The biggest vulnerability you have is that there is nobody around to protect your rights. That's one vulnerability. But even if you do have somebody around, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean you're protected. The other vulnerability is that you have assets.
Yeah,
that's
that's it. You have assets.
They're not going for the granny that lives in the trailer park.
Right. The old homeless lady.
Everybody I have talked to who has said this could never happen to me because there's somebody else in that movie, The Guardians by Billy Mintz, who's fallen victim to it. And so, I don't see how anybody could protect themselves against this, how anybody could be immune to it if they don't have this form filed.
Yeah.
Somebody said, well, I live in a gated community, they can never get in. Worst comes to worst, it's the police who come in. You think the guards at the gate are going to say to the police, you can't come in?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And especially if the police say we have a court order, that's not going to happen.
So this form, oh, go ahead.
There you go.
Oh, I was just going to say the form that you're talking about here, this is what you can fill out to protect yourself. So this doesn't happen.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
You nominate the guardian that you want, and that your son, your daughter, your neighbor, your friend, your spouse. I mean, people have been taken out of their house and their spouse left there.
Wow. Right in front of their spouse. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
A spouse, and yet you can be taken out of. Wow. That's even.
This has been termed legal kidnapping.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is.
And they go and put them in a home, and then they charge them for. They also charge them for pants, like a surcharge, like their guardian charging you.
Any needs. It's supposed to come out of their funds. And this April Parks, she had storage lockers, and when the police went to their storage locker, they searched her storage locker. They found the remains, the ashes of over 30 of her guardians.
Holy shit. So she keeps all the people that she's guardians for as like souvenirs?
No, she probably, and again, speculation on my part, would have had to pay
more for an actual cremation's much cheaper.
Yeah.
She cremated them, but then to bury them, to dispose of them. So, put them in storage.
Wow. This is some next level sick shit. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is this a Nevada thing or is this a countrywide? You mentioned someone in California, but is this mainly a thing that could happen in Nevada, or can this happen anywhere around the country?
Well, unfortunately, when our magazine is published online, it's published in a PDF format. And so it's published on our website, it's published on our website, thevegasvoice.net. And you have to click on a PDF copy. So you can't go to Google and search it and find our information. You have to go to our website. But I've searched Google, and it seems to be a problem in other states. And I've searched guardianship forms, and other states do have guardianship nomination forms. I don't know. I haven't done any research into whose are best or how they differ from ours, but I have a lot of confidence that ours is a pretty solid program. That if anybody goes to court and says Joe Smith needs a guardian, the courts are required to check with the state of Nevada and see if this form has been filed, if somebody has been nominated to be that guardian.
But if you're not in Nevada,
that's what I'm saying.
And if the state doesn't have that protection, then you're screwed. Anybody could do this to you.
Wow.
And it could happen to people that are young, like you said. It could happen to disabled people or other people that you know.
I can see it happening. Like,
you don't have to be disabled. You don't have to have any mental deficiencies. You just have to have some assets and be vulnerable.
But I could see that it could be vulnerable in terms of, because normally it's about age a lot of times, but a lot of people assume, they might look out for a disabled person and go, that person would be easier to get guardianship over because they're assuming that they're, because of their disability, they can't function.
Right.
So
that they wouldn't know any better or something, or, whatever.
Like it's almost like a different, like you don't have to be 70. You can just be disabled or something like that.
Well, that's why I use myself as an example. Like I could see somebody doing some crap like that. Like, hey, well, he's blind. He lives alone. How is he living alone? We need to do something about this.
Like I said, it's not even about this. It's a total scam. Like they don't even care about that.
Oh yeah,
Max. But I guess my point is that that they're not going to look into it as much if you're 90 or if you're blind.
And the state also pays the guardians a fee to take care of these folks.
Oh.
So
yeah, it's like when you adopt foster kids. I think you're paid per foster kid or something like that. So it's the same kind of deal.
Yeah, you're being a caretaker, but you're not taking care. You're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're literally, and the reason why they would also most likely go for older people, Max, is that they're closer to dying.
That's true.
A lot of times, like if you're 90 and you do have your health is kind of waning, maybe it's another option too, because they can take everything after you. That's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
I think so. Several years ago, I met somebody who, not here in Las Vegas, but up in Pahrump. Her job was to, when somebody in the Pahrump area died and had no relatives that they could contact, it was up to them to bury them and take care of disposing of their assets. If they had a home, determining what to do with the home. So, I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? There's a situation with somebody that I know that died about a year ago. It's actually a mutual friend of mine and Sharon's, and he had nobody. So I don't know what happened. He had VA benefits though, so I'm sure he got a burial with the VA cemetery or something. But he had nothing to really pass on. It's a very strange situation. Slippery slope.
Here in Las Vegas, we've got a number of 55 plus communities, and in my real estate business, I do a lot of work with folks in those communities, and there are a lot of people who live alone, no relatives in the area. And, if anything happened to them, who would know who to call? So they could be prime targets for this kind of abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Man, what I want you to do is I want you to send me the link to that form on Facebook, and then we'll post that in the description of the show here for sure, because we definitely want to share that. And
you can go on Google and search Nevada guardianship, but make sure you get the state of Nevada website, which is www.nvsos.gov.
okay.
Again, www.nvsos.gov, because there are third-party people out there that are offering forms, but you have to fill out some information, and I'm not sure who those people are offering to get you the form, because they could be the people targeting senior.
Right. So you want to get it from the reliable source is what you're saying.
Yeah, and really, if I would encourage people to get on Amazon Prime and watch that Billy Mintz movie, The Guardians, because it's going to be as compelling as any mystery movie you've ever seen. You're gonna be waiting for the happy ending, and really, it's not satisfying. I mean, the perpetrators are in prison, but people never recovered their. I mean, some families lost their parents, died in these nursing homes, and the families never learned of it. The people who were successful in getting out of the system have lost everything, and now, you know, many of them were independent and relished that independence, even though they had friends and family. And now, with no assets, they've lost that independence. You know, they have comfortable nest eggs, and we're receiving income from retirement funds, and that's all gone.
Oh man. So they whipped through their retirement, the whole bit. And now they're forced to live in assisted living facilities, or
not necessarily, but they're living now with if they have family, with friends, in low income housing, when that they weren't eligible for it prior to this. It's just changed their whole lifestyle. I mean, you work your whole life for the golden years, and then the gold is taken away from you.
That's, man, to rob somebody's independence. See, this hits me in a very personal way, man. So I get it. You know, this is why I was like, we got to have this dude on, man. You got to tell your
spread
story.
The word, and it gets out to anybody, you know. Recently, there have been some stories in the news about, I've seen a couple of stories. One was from Illinois, my home state, about some men who were convicted of murder and found out that DNA evidence 30 years later exonerated him. And then there was a case in New York where I think 4 men were convicted of a murder and been in jail for so many years that only one was still alive, and they were all exonerated. This story about the Guardians is the same. It has the same. It's the same thing. The people are being imprisoned for offenses that they're not guilty of, and their lives are taken away from them. You know, some of these folks, many of these folks have grandkids and kids. They have rich, wonderful lives, and all of a sudden they disappear, and nobody knows what happened to them. The families had to search and search and search to find their relatives who had been victims of this crime. That's insane.
They're trying to call grandma, and grandma's not answering, or phone's been shut off, or something.
That's what happened when we received the call. There's stories on that in the movie The Guardians by Billy Mintz, of people where I'm calling my mom, leaving messages. She's not calling me back. I'm calling my dad. I don't hear from him. I get in the car. I come down to Nevada. I come down to Las Vegas. I see a sign on the door of their house. If anybody wants to know any information on this house, call me. Signed, April Parks. You know, that's a hell of a way to have to receive this news.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do about it. They find out, like, hey, this bitch shouldn't have anything to do with my mom or dad.
Yeah, who is this person? You know.
They can
Too bad.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, there are things they can do. but it's not something that you can go to an authority and say, this is wrong, I can do it. It doesn't happen overnight. It can take years.
Yeah.
And resources and energy. And, you know, when you have a livelihood in a family and you have to alter everything you do and expend all your energies in a different direction. I mean, you know, I was watching TV today in the news about what's going on in the floods in Kentucky. People have lost everything. They're not going to work Monday. People think they're going to work Monday, but now they can't because they've lost their home. They have to find the things that are in their home that they need to save, or their pets, or their, you know, find mom. I can't go to work because mom's house was destroyed. We don't know where mom is. That's what this whole thing is too. I mean, it's like a devastating storm that comes out of nowhere unexpectedly.
Just turns your life upside down. It turns everybody's life upside down, not just the person who's getting, you know, taken advantage of, but also the family. So they're like secondary victims.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, is 45 years, if it's 15 years in prison, is that enough? How do you recoup from the victims? You can't.
Wow.
Well,
yeah. I am going to watch that movie, by the way, because I'm interested.
I'm going to check that out too.
And I'd like to know how you feel about it, because really emotionally, I don't know that I've ever been impacted by a movie the way I was this, because this was I live here in Las Vegas, so some of these people, I live in a 55 plus community. Some of these people are my neighbors.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it's probably going to piss me off, but I'm going to watch it, and you will know when I've watched it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, any other any links or any other information you want to give out?
Yeah. Anything you want to give out?
Like any?
What I would say is, you know, just go to Google and search Nevada Guardianship, and
look it up right now.
The form is called the Request to Nominate Guardian form. And again, the one thing I really want to stress is this form goes right to the Secretary of State. No other hands touch it. So there's nobody else getting their fingers on this information, or it's not designed. It's not one of those programs that designed to gather information about you to make you a potential target. It goes right to the Secretary of State. It's you're going to search for Nevada Guardianship, and it's going to direct you. It's going to direct you to several sites. You know, Nevada Guardianship. The site you're going to be looking for might not be the first one that comes up, but the site you're going to be looking for is www.nvsos.gov.
Okay, cool.
All right.
And you have a link too that you were going to send me, correct? Is that?
Just look up Guardianship.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah, just look it up. You'll find it.
Okay, cool. Well, Sam, man, we thank you for coming and enlightening us about what's going on. I want to share this show with everybody. I'm serious. I'm going to send it to my parents. I'm going to, a lot of people that I think would benefit.
Please do. About this. Please do.
Absolutely.
It's something I'm very passionate about. You know, it's in my business, real estate, we're supposed to be out there looking for clients nonstop, which I've often done. But you know what? That's become secondary to my alerting my client base about this program. It's just something that's taken a priority in my life at this point.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why. Because
Brett, you know it at our meetings. You heard me get up there and say, I don't want to talk about my business. I want to talk about this program.
Right. That's what you did last time. That's when you said that. I said, you were like, I don't want to talk about that business. I want to tell you guys a story. And this was the story that you just told.
Wow.
So that's
I said,
thank you for allowing me to share this with you. And
absolutely. We're going to share it too. So, we'll put the information up.
Billy Mintz, The Guardians is the name of the movie on Amazon Prime.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Okay.
Be checking that out.
Let's stay with us for a second, Sam.
Sure.
Yep.
But we're gonna wrap up here. This has been the Nothing Secret interview with Sam I'm sorry,
Wagmeister?
Wagmeister. Yeah.
Close enough.
And I don't. I'm sorry about that. And I am Cruise Control.
And I'm Maxwell Silverhammer.
And that's the story
there.
there.
Bitches.
See you soon.
We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.